Good afternoon, and welcome to the rush this afternoon. It is Tuesday, folks, and we are going to be going in a rush this afternoon. My name is Randolph Critchlow. I want to welcome those persons joining us internationally, in the region, and right here in Guyana. We have a number of things to unpack, so let's not waste any time, folks. Let's unpack. All right. We are back on the rush this afternoon. Randolph Critchlow here, keeping you company for the next 45 minutes to 50 minutes or so. We are going to be unpacking some things that happened today, folks. What is in the news today? We're going to be doing that. No confidence in Benn and Frank. No confidence in Benn and Frank. The opposition will have filed but those no confidence motion to the clerk of the assembly today against the Minister of Health and the Minister of Public Security or Home Affairs, Robson Benn. Those two no confidence motions were submitted today. The opposition leader outlined a number of reasons why they do not feel confident that those two persons are doing what they're supposed to do in their given post. So those no confidence motions have to now be submitted to the Speaker of the House, and he will decide whether or not they will be heard. Let us see what will happen, folks. We're talking about that. We're talking about this new regional security force that is being formed by the government. The government set up a parallel crime fighting unit should be challenged in court. This is a report we're following from not the Times, of course. You have credible news at the Times, the Village Voice. The Village Voice following that. And of course, we are also following the release of those men who were charged with the murders of Joel and Isaiah. The magistrate saying, of course, the police don't have any evidence to charge them in. No credible evidence to charge them in. We were saying this in the beginning, that these men who were picked up and who are claiming their innocence seem as though they would have been coerced into giving that statement. Folks, lots to cover, lots to unpack. But before we do that, we like to ask you where you're joining us from. Where are you joining us from, folks? Right, sorry, folks. People are saying that let us just fix that because we don't want. Let me see if I can fix the caption. It says no instead of no. All right, folks. Apologies. I'll have my operator see if we can fix that. It says no confidence instead of no. But of course, we mean no confidence in the fraudulent ministers of health. No confidence in the fraudulent minister of public security. Yes, my operators are fixing that at the moment. So thank you very much for highlighting that to us, folks. Let us continue. As we continue, folks, where are you joining us from this afternoon? East New York is in the house, joining from Brooklyn. Thank you very much. Joining from Suriname. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you very much for joining this afternoon. We're going to be unpacking some as I said, credible and valid information. But before we do that, we want to just give you your shout outs. We want to give you your shout outs this afternoon. Let me see if I can edit from here, folks. Let me see if I can give you your shout outs before we get to the beginning of the program. As we are here, folks, we are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. Thank you very much for those persons who are joining us there. Give us a like. Give us a share. Give us a like. Give us a share. We'll be joined a little later down by our political correspondent, Miss Nicole Telford. Nicole Telford,
that
sorry,
at the moment. So
right, Nicole Telford will be joining us, folks. So stay tuned as we continue to bring you credible and valid information. I am sorting out a few things on the back end with the operator, so just give us a few minutes. Give us a few minutes. Let us deal with that. Right. Let's just ensure that our folks on YouTube are joining us also. Give us a shout out if you're joining us on YouTube before we get the program rolling. From the Virgin Islands, Essequibo, Toronto. Good afternoon to you, French Guyana. Good afternoon, Texas. Good afternoon, New York. Good afternoon, Flatbush. Good afternoon, Atlanta. Good afternoon, Barbados. Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. Barbados again, North Runville, Linden, Eureka, St. Lucia, Minnesota, New Haven, Connecticut, Texas. Right. Thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. As we say, share the live stream. Share the live stream. Let us get the ball rolling this afternoon. This is just our preamble, folks. As we do that, as we say to you, share the live stream, we want to say a special happy birthday to Comrade Aubrey Norton, who is celebrating his birthday today. For those persons who don't know, Aubrey Norton is celebrating his birthday, executive member of the People's National Congress Reform, political scientist, and of course, the executive director of the Office of the Leader of the Opposition. Many of you would know that Mr. Aubrey Norton has thrown his hat in the ring and suggested that once the PNC Congress is on, he will be running for leadership. He'll be contesting for the leadership of the party. So, good afternoon, Mr. Norton. Good afternoon to all his friends and family. And I know he is enjoying a wonderful birthday. So thank you very much to our graphics people for providing that with us. Let us ensure that on YouTube we are all logged in. Let's just sort this out before we go any further in the program. Right? Let's just sort this out before we go any further in the program, folks. I just want to ensure that we are all, wow, okay, we're all logged in all over. 1 second. Right. Folks, continue to let us know where you're joining us from before we start the show. Let us see. Good afternoon. Right, folks. So let's jump right in it. It is time for our opening take this afternoon. Let me just deal with one other admin issue before we go to that opening take. Right? Let me just deal with one other admin issue before we go to that opening take this afternoon. And I think you will enjoy the opening take this afternoon. It's quite interesting as we talk about something that all Guyanese know about. And we'll go to that in a few seconds. Let me just finish up here and we will be talking, folks. Great. It's time for opening take, folks. It is time for opening take. Right. It is opening take this afternoon, folks, and I want to start the opening take with a video. This afternoon because I think it is only appropriate that we start with the video and then we go into what the opening take is. So let's go straight to the video and you will tell me if this is a familiar sight to you as a Guyanese, and more so someone who lives in Georgetown, Guyana. Right? Let us know if this is a familiar sight to you. Right. That's a familiar sight to many Guyanese. That is a familiar sight to many Guyanese.
It's literally not on the website transfer market.
Especially those persons living in Georgetown, Guyana. That is the famed horse cart racing that is done on Homestretch Avenue on Sunday mornings. Horse cart racing done on Homestretch Avenue on Sunday morning. Many persons are familiar with it. Many persons are familiar with it. My opening take the opening take this afternoon says, you know what? It is time for us to embrace horse cart racing. It is time for us to embrace it. Every Sunday morning, hundreds of Guyanese gather on Homestretch Avenue to spectacle, to bet, and to be entertained by horse cart racing. All of it happens in full flow of traffic, frustrating motorists who will be bullied off the road as the races come roaring down. The police often play cat and mouse with the racers and have little control of managing this weekly spectacle. The various forms of horse cart racing and horse and buggy or chariot racing in many countries. But what happens in Guyana, right, only happens this way. It is no other part of the world that it happens like this. Let's just put it that way. Instead of fighting these horse cart racers, they should be encouraged to grow the sport, to grow the event, and it should be properly organized. For example, from 6 to 10 a.m., Homestretch Avenue could be blocked off from vehicular traffic so the races could be allowed to happen in an organized manner. Like Sunday morning traffic could be diverted to Hatfield Street, for example. The event clearly attracts many enthusiastic spectators, and if properly organized and managed, could attract many more and could become a novelty tourist attraction. There are stands that are nearby on Durban Park, which allows for sheltered spectating. Families could find it as a fun event if horse cart, pony cart, and donkey cart rides were added inside of Durban Park as a family-friendly activity. Durban Park, remember, was famed for horse racing, was a famed horse racing venue in years gone by. The horse cart racers should be encouraged. They should be encouraged and offered advice and assistance in forming Guyana Horse Cart Racing Association, right? Horse Cart Racing Association, right? Instead of this adversarial relationship with them, the Guyana Horse Cart Racing Association would create proper rules for the event, outline racing categories, have registered racers and horses, identify and train officials, rank horses and drivers. An entire industry could be created around this, instead of how it is done, a disorganized, rebellious, haphazard event. Horse cart racing takes place in several other places across the coastline of Guyana, mostly on Sunday mornings, and often public roadways without police traffic control. As it is done now, it is dangerous and reckless. It is time for the racers to be mobilized, and to be embraced. And the races can be run in an organized, structured, and safe manner to benefit the racers, spectators, and punters. And that is the opening take. We want to thank Mr. Imran Khan for that take this afternoon, for contributing that take to the show. Folks, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this opening take? Somebody is saying, I remember those days. We all know it. We all know it. Right? We all know it. Right? Somebody said, keep it in Durban Park. right? So these are that I find it that it's interesting, and I believe that this is a really good contribution by Imran. I believe that this is it is time that we deal with this. It's time that we embrace them and organize it, so that we don't have that adversarial relationship with them bullying motorists off the road. And it's about time. It is about time. Like this, there are many other things just like this that we have not decided to regularize and to take advantage of the markets that it will open up once we regularize it and make it something that is done in orderly manner and benefit every single one. Even the people who are betting, That's not discouraging that, right? Thank you very much for that, and we will continue on our program today, folks. What is in the news? What is in the news? This is what we're going to be dealing with right now. What is in the news? Right, folks, today we saw, before we get to what is in the news, I just wanted to say that we spoke early on about the no confidence motion filed against the two ministers, and let me just jump right into that. The no confidence motion. And we're also going to be talking today about the letter that Mr. Paul Slow, wrote to the Commissioner Hoppy, warning of legal actions if he fails to effect police promotion. That is getting crazier as the day go on, because we're now in a good old Mexican standoff. That is what we're in. Let's talk about that first, because I want to bring this topic up. Let's talk about that first. This is a very interesting topic that I find to be the unfolding of lots of craziness. Let me just pull this up. This has moved now to a position of madness. That is what it seems to me. Slow warns Hoppy of legal action if he fails to effect police promotion. For those persons who aren't up to date with what has played out here, let me just say to you, let me just bring you up to speed. The Guyana Police Force, promotions in the Guyana Police Force come through, of a particular rank, come through the Police Service Commission. I'm just unpacking here so everybody's up to speed. The Police Service Commission has a particular lifespan. August of this year, this current commission's life will come to an end. When the PPP government took over, this current commission was still in the mid of its life, 2020. In December of 2020, folks, I'm just putting all the pieces here to let's show you how the dominoes really fell. In 2020, a list of promotion was prepared by Mr. Paul Slow and the Police Service Commission. Those officers who are supposed to be promoted. A few officers were disgruntled, including Mr. Brutus, who took the matter to court, effectively halting the promotion. Mr. Brutus was overlooked for promotion because he had disciplinary matters. Of course, I'm just giving you what is in the public sphere at the moment. Mr. Brutus took the matter to court, so the promotions were halted. This was late 2020. A few weeks back, that case was dismissed. Mr. Brutus lost the case. A number of other senior police officers came on the case as interested parties, some of whom were not promoted also were overlooked because of similar matters. So Mr. Brutus' case was dismissed. As that was happening, the president of the country, fraudulent as he is, as reported by Mr. Paul Slow, had called Mr. Slow, who was the head of the Police Service Commission, to ask why certain officers were not on the list. This is not Randolph Critchlow saying this. This was reported in the media by Mr. Paul, so that the president had reached out to him about this list that was not made public. So somebody leaked the list and said, trying to get the president and his men to lean on the commission to ensure that these particular officers were promoted. And I will venture to say this, a few other things. So eventually, but I'm not going to get to that. Eventually, what happened, let me just break it down for you. The case kept being pushed back. Remember, the Police Service Commission, Mr. Paul Slow and the Police Service Commission, they are waiting now on this case because the case essentially injuncted them, stopped them from ordering these promotions to go through or releasing the list publicly. So the case was thrown out. Mr. Brutus, they lost the case. So essentially, it cleared the way for the Police Service Commission to release the list of promoted officers. But President Ali and Nandalal had different take of it. In an attempt, and this is according to Mr. Slow, allegedly in an attempt to stop these promotions from going through, there were letters sent to Paul Slow and the people of the commission asking them to show cause why they shouldn't be removed from their position. They responded. The government probably didn't like the response. So the president took, a few days before the case, the results of the case were announced, the president took the position to suspend the commission. Sounds fair, right? I want to protect my people. I want my people to promote it. You don't want that to happen. I'm going to suspend you because you're not listening to me. Allegedly, this is what happened. But here is where we meet the problem. Through his lawyer, Mr. Slow, Mr. Peters, who's the lawyer, they showed that the president couldn't actually suspend the commission in the manner that he did. He couldn't. This is a constitutional body. This is a constitutional commission that has certain regulations as to how you go about suspending commissioners and the commission of itself. So though the president, in this very dictatorial, authoritarian way, said, if you basically don't listen to me, I'm going to suspend you. Through his lawyers, he showed that, look, the commission could not be suspended in that manner. Again, I'm breaking everything down here. So if the commission can't be suspended in that manner, it means that the commission is still functioning according to Paul Slow and his lawyers. The president doesn't have the authority to unilaterally suspend the commission. There are certain steps that have to be taken so that that can happen. So according to Paul Slow, these officers who were promoted should behave as if they were promoted. They were legally promoted given that this list went out. On the other hand, Nandalal is saying that, look, who Paul Slow think he is? The president said he suspend. Paul Slow and his lawyer saying the president can't suspend me. That is not his position. That is not how it is done. So that brings us to present day. The good old Mexican standoff. So you have the Police Service Commission on one hand, with Paul Slow saying these promotions are legit, they are legal. the president and Nandalal on the other side saying, look, Paul Slow can't tell you to do something when the president suspend Paul Slow. Paul Slow saying the president can't suspend me. In the middle, you have the current commissioner of police and those other officers who have been now promoted essentially by the Police Service Commission. But the president said, nah, we ain't recognizing the list because we suspend you before. So it is quite a mess. Quite a mess. So those officers are now in a sort of a limbo because who are they going to listen to? Who are they going to listen to? The Police Service Commission, who has the authority to promote them? Because the president can't promote them. The Commissioner of Police can't promote them. It is the Police Service Commission that can do that. So now they are in limbo. Right? They are in limbo. But folks, we're keeping an eye on this matter and we're going to get to our big story of the day. Of course, we're going to get to our big story of the day, and that is the no confidence motion. Right? We're going to get to our big story of the day in just a moment, and we're going to be joined by Nicole Telford to talk about that big story of the day. Right? But before we get to that big story of the day, let's continue talking about some other things that are in the news. And it has to do with this Joel and Isaiah murder. Folks, I don't even know what to say. I really don't know what to say. We are at a real sad place in our country. A real sad place. Junkies freed of Isaiah Henry murder. Right? As was predicted, the two men accused and predicted by many persons in the country. The two men accused of killing the Henry cousins were on Monday freed of the charges against Isaiah Henry. Magistrate Peter Yu, at the end of the preliminary inquiry into the murder of Isaiah Henry, ruled that the prima facie case has been made out against 34-year-old Anil Sanchara and 30-year-old Vinu Gopal. The magistrate also ruled that there was no evidence. No evidence was tendered that would pin the men to the crime. Now, what is the Guyana Police Force really doing? What is the Guyana Police Force really doing? Right? Attorney Nigel Hughes and the Guyana Human Rights Association criticized the poor quality of the investigation conducted in the case and accused, and of course the men professed their innocence. These are the three men. If the magistrate could rule just on this preliminary hearing that, look, you have presented no case that would pin these men, no evidence that would pin these men to the murder of these boys. What is really happening? What is really happening? I really don't know what is happening, folks. I don't know what is going on. At the same time as this is happening, almost simultaneously, folks, you have persons being picked up for the murder of Harry Singh, who have 10 other persons that put them somewhere else. 4 persons were picked up and charged for the murder of Harry Singh. 3 out of those 4 persons, 10 eyewitnesses put them somewhere else. Not at the location, not at the scene of the crime. Somewhere else. Those 10 persons after presenting their statements, were locked up by the police. Not 10, 6 out of the 10, sorry. The police had issued a statement saying that 9 of the 10 persons are wanted for perverting the course of justice. For giving your statement, your alibi statement, you're perverting the course of justice. These 6 women, and I just bring you up to date with the story. These 6 women who came down to the CID headquarters, gave their statements, the alibi statements, were then charged in perverting the course of justice. That is where we are in Guyana. That same Guyana police force pick up these 3 men for the murder of the Henry boys and can't present any evidence in court that would pin these men to the murder. You know that Guyana is a real place? I cannot believe that Guyana is that same incompetent Guyana police force who paint themselves into a corner by picking up these men and charging them, and instead of doing a proper investigation, they decide that they are going to charge the women who gave alibi statements for 3 of the men picked up for Harish Singh's murder. Just imagine that. So imagine if you were sitting with your friend. You were sitting with your friend, and then the police put out a wanted bulletin for your friend. But you know your friend was sitting here with you in your house. But the police said he was over the river killing somebody. You must not go to the station and offer your statement of alibi for your friend, because you will be arrested. That is what the Guyana police force is saying. By putting these 6 women on $100,000 bail each. Because off the face of it, the police believed that these women were lying, apparently. Who investigated them? Who put them before a court and said, listen, your evidence that you gave was false. Then you were perverting the course of justice. You have to go to jail. You have to spend the night in the lockup. How is this even allowed to happen? Folks, we are in really serious and dangerous times in this country. We are in serious and dangerous times in this country. Because if you are sitting with your friend and you hear your friend was over the river killing somebody, you have a right to go and say to the police, no, he was not there, he was here with me. But what the police would have essentially done is say, listen, you can't come and tell me anything other than what we believe. Rest we will charge you. That same Guyana police force, the same police forces pick up these 3 men and now can't give any evidence to pin them at the murder of the Henry boys. As if the entire Guyana didn't know. The entire Guyana knew that these weren't the men. The only set of people that didn't know that these weren't the men, was the Guyana police force. They seem to be the only people that didn't know that these 3 junkies that they pick up, and I'm quoting the newspaper here, this is not me, were not the killers of the Henry boys. The Guyana police force, the only people that didn't know that. They have to go to court to embarrass themselves. But this is what we're dealing with in this country. This is what we're dealing with. As somebody is saying in chat, the Guyana police force is an embarrassment to the country. Right? Embarrassment. Embarrassing the self, according to the African mood. The embarrassing. Folks, let's move to our top story of the day. We're not even talk about the well, we're gonna talk about it a little later down as we talk about the no confidence emotion. but this parallel crime fighting unit being set up by this government. I wonder if the Minister of Home Affairs knows about this, because he wasn't even the one that brought the bill. He wasn't the one. It was Gail Teixeira who brought this bill for this regional support teams. I would want to believe that this was something that was conjured up by the minister who's responsible for security. And he should be bringing this bill to Parliament. But it is very strange. I don't know if I am wrong, but if there is a bill coming to Parliament, there is a motion, there is some suggestion in Parliament to create another arm of the police force, an extension of the police force, a parallel police fighting unit, whatever it is, that would come directly from the desk of the Minister of Public Security. But it wasn't Robson Ben that brought this. What is happening? Does Robson Ben know anything about this parallel police force? Huh? Carol Borer, I know your last name. She said that sounds like a movie. Yes, a movie. We in a movie right now in Guyana. We in a movie. Folks, let's get to the big news of the day. And that, of course, is sorry, 1 second. Sorry, I wasn't, my microphone was off. But let's get to the big news of the day, please. Let's get to the big news of the day. The opposition today submitted its no confidence motion on 2 of the ministers, and I'm going to have Ms. Nicole Telford in just a minute, right? And we are going to be talking about that no confidence motion. Let me just see if I can bring you a bit of video from that submission today. A bit of video from it. Right. See if I can get this up here, folks, because we want to bring you all of it. Let's see if I can bring it up.
Hello. You guys can clap. Once I find you well. Yes. This is where I have file. Two confidence motions against one against the Minister of Home Affairs, and one against the Minister of Health. These motions are moved by me, and they are seconded. In the case of the motion against the Minister of Health, seconded by Dr. Karen Cummins, and in the case of the Minister of Home Affairs, by MP Gita Chandler. And I basically lay them to your consideration.
Okay, thank you, sir. Usually the normal thing is that I will examine them,
Yes.
to see if they offend the standing order,
Yes.
and then I'll submit them to the speaker for his approval or disapproval.
Thank you.
So the next move is for us to hear from you.
Yes, but I'll deal with it expeditiously.
I appreciate that.
I'll have them sent to the speaker almost immediately.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And as I am here, so I want to raise one other issue with you. If we check there's a parliamentary book I'm using to teach how Parliament works.
Oh, good. Very good.
Mr. Harmon, could you please reiterate, tell us exactly what happened here today, please?
All right. I just filed 2 motions against ministers of this PPP installed regime. And those motions have to do with, first of all, the situation with the health in this country. And that's a motion that's moved against the Minister of Health, Frank Anthony. We all know that the situation in Guyana with respect to the COVID-19 pandemic continues to spiral out of control. The number of deaths is about 478 and thereabouts today. And this is basically running like a runaway train with no perceptible plan on the part of the ministry, of this minister, to deal with the COVID situation. In addition to that, we have some issues with respect to the vaccination program. And only recently, we have dealt with the question of sums of money, over $975 million in one instance, which was spent even before Parliament had an opportunity to deal with it, and another 358, I believe, after that, which Parliament had an opportunity to look at. But the point is that the first set of funds, the 975 million, was spent on purchasing vaccines from a middleman, and until now, we cannot get, in spite of the questions we've asked of the Minister of Health, he cannot provide us with details of this purchase, with the vaccines itself, so that the Guyanese people can feel assuaged that this vaccine that they have taken, this particular batch of Sputnik vaccines, which was bought from a sheikh in the United Arab Emirates, that it is safe. Until yesterday, President Irfan Ali was at a heads of government conference on CARICOM, and he was speaking about local authorization for this vaccine. Local authorization is zero. We do not have the capacity here in Guyana to speak authoritatively on the efficacy or anything with respect to these vaccines. And so, in spite of several questions I've asked, Dr. Anthony is still to answer these questions. He has actually gone out to produce a letter from a gentleman in Russia, which that letter raises more questions than it does answers. And so, as of now, we are still not satisfied that this minister, the Ministry of Health, has taken the condition of our health and the health of our people seriously. And so what we are saying is that on behalf of the people of Guyana, that we have no confidence in Frank Anthony to run the affairs of the health of this country as a Minister of Health. And we've asked that the House sanctions him and that he be called upon to resign immediately. That's the first motion. The second motion deals with Robeson Benn, the Minister of Home Affairs. The government itself already has moved a no confidence motion in Benn by setting up an alternative police force to deal with crime. When they came to the house and asked for money for a regional force, a regional entity that is a new entity that ostensibly has to deal with crime. Crime is a police function. And if your own government is saying that, look, we need to remove this function from you and give it to somebody else, then in fact what they are saying is that they do not have the confidence in Benn to be the Minister of Home Affairs. But even beyond that, crime is also running out of control. The statistics, they're hiding it. They're hiding it. They formed some new black clothes team that is actually now, I see them dress up like black clothes police, and they're meant to be the PR people. But they're hiding the statistics. But if you look even at statements that emanate from the United States Embassy here in Ghana as advice to their citizens, they're saying that crime is out of control. Crime is out of control. When you can have a private citizen on Main Street in the bright lights of Main Street, gunned down, and until now we can't find, up to now, who is it with all the cameras around. We still cannot find who did it. When we have drugs, the largest drug find in the world, coming from Guyana too, and until now, we can't get a single person arrested for it. When we have aircraft coming into this country, almost every other week, landing, some crash landing with drugs, ammunition, arms on it. And until now, we cannot find who are the people connected. What is going on? When we have Joel, Isaiah Henry, and Harris Singh brutally murdered, and all the Guyanese people can tell you, they look at the people that they brought as the persons who are responsible for it. And then you add to that the family of these people who actually came to a lawyer and gave certain statements. And rather than trying to work with these people to see how best you can solve the crime, you penalize them. You charge them as well. So what we are saying is that the Ghana police force is out of control. They've been weaponized by this administration, basically to go after, and in a very brutal way, citizens of this country who hold contrary views to that of the installed regime, and citizens who are political opponents. You see how many fictitious charges they brought against our MPs. You've seen the way in which they try to dismantle the Elections Commission and the way they run behind those officers. Is this a police force that is responsible for service and protection? That is what a police force is meant to do. And so what we are saying, when you put all of this together, in addition to other things, we believe that the House should be sufficiently moved to say that we have no confidence in Robeson Benn as a Minister of Home Affairs, and that we speak on behalf of the Guyanese people in saying that the country has become a harsher place to live in, that crime roams the street, that people who are convicted criminals have been released from prison, and the fact that their identity becomes more a national secret than the concerns of citizens. How could that be in a functioning democracy? It cannot work. And so Ben must understand that the people of Guyana has no confidence in him He has to go. This is what we're asking the parliament to do. We're asking the parliament to determine that these fellas are unfit to be ministers and that they should resign immediately. Irfan Ali has to know what he has to do. You have to take the action, Irfan Ali. You have to take that action. Because these ministers that you're appointing, they don't fit the bill. They don't fit the bill. And this is what we're asking the parliament to make that determination. And that is what our motions are about.
How confident are you, even if the motions are passed, that you would get the support to remove 2 members of parliament?
We are confident that on this side, on our side of the house, that there is a clear position. We believe that by the time we get to debating these motions, that reason will take its seat on the part of some of the MPs on the government side as well, that will agree with us that, look, this situation is bad. As I said earlier, the government has already moved a motion of no confidence in Benn by setting up another police entity where they believe that that can protect them. So if they don't believe that the police and the GDF and all this can protect us on the Benn, why should we keep him there? And so I believe that we are going to have broad cross the line approach and support for these two motions, because what is happening is that these are not just personal issues. These are issues of public security and public health. And each and every one of us would have some family who dies as a result of this negligence.
Right.
Each of us would have a family who dies as a result of police not doing the work.
Right. So thank you very much, dear, the leader of the opposition, giving his thoughts after the submission of those two no confidence motions. Joining us right now to help unpack in the next few minutes. I didn't even realize that our program time is almost up, but helping us unpack in the next few minutes is our resident political correspondent, Nicole Telford. Nicole, welcome to the Rush this afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers. I like how you label me this political correspondent.
Welcome, Nicole. Welcome. We're always happy to have you and hear your views on the Rush. Let's just start with that. Let's just start with no confidence, and the one aspect which is public security, and the other aspect is health. The Guyana police force seems to be in chaos, Nicole. What is happening there? Why? What are we witnessing from the Public Police Service Commission? To elections of the police force, to the bundling of these criminal cases, senior police officers fighting, the president getting in. But what is really happening? How are Guyanese supposed to be comfortable or confident that they'll be protected when the police seem to be in chaos? Your thoughts?
And the words you raise, how are Guyanese supposed to be confident?
Mm-hmm.
The Police Service Commission not being allowed to act, the president getting involved, the Guyana police force leaders in fear of even acting. Dictatorship is prevalent. It's visible.
Yeah,
visible to all the eyes, and the lack of confidence in the judiciary, all of that. And this no confidence motion that was put before the National Assembly by leader of the opposition and all the supporting MPs, I think it is time they do it. People say that the opposition isn't doing anything, but let me say this. You must write to sensitize organizations, company, internationally, locally, and regionally. When you write, there's documentation that you've made complaints about these issues. And that is how you forge forward, and you know how to move ahead. You write, you engage with people, and you determine how you move forward from there. Now, aside from that, the no confidence motion against the health minister is well deserved. Like the opposition said, no answers about the Sputnik vaccine, the hundreds of millions that were budgeted in Parliament for the COVID-19 cash grant, discriminatory practices with the sharing of the COVID-19 cash grant, using the PPP operatives in the dispensation of those cash grants all across the country, when there is, and I must repeat, there are lots of agencies that monies could have passed through. Those monies could have passed through. So persons could have gotten them. We have the Guyana Post Office. We have local democratic office. We have mayor, city council. We got all kinds of offices, post offices all across the country, all in the interland. And none of these channels were used by the PPP. The PPP used their political supporters to share out those monies.
Yeah.
Right? That's one that is really, really bad. The other is lots of people still have pink slips. Lots of people in certain communities, mostly African Guyanese or Black people community, as we will say. That's another one. The other thing is the Sputnik vaccine, and like the opposition leader said and referred to, the man who signed on that signature that started his business 10 days before the Sputnik vaccine was shipped to Guyana. Frank Anthony has no answers. Frank Anthony and CDC, they all came out and said there was some disease in the Mazaruni, so they had to send treated nets. No one indicated what type of diseases, a rise of diseases. Nobody has said, well, it's a rise in mosquito, the mosquito-borne disease that name dengue fever or whatever fever. Nothing. But they just get mosquito disease and they bought nets and send it into the interland. So there's no data supporting those purchases or anything. And these are issues Guyanese people should pay attention to. The other part with the Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Benn, like the opposition said, he is responsible for the security of Guyanese, and his own party went against him to go to Parliament for monies to open another security services. But what I want to add, even today, Alberto Brunner is a regional representative for Central America and the English-speaking Caribbean. You know what he said? A strictly security-focused approach to crime prevention is costly, ineffective, and paves the way for human rights violations. Why Caribbean governments should make a shift to human rights-based approach to crime prevention now. That he gave reasons. He cited that all of these private security initiatives that they're taking is a recipe for disaster. Because guess what will happen? Those same black clothes photos that they took out and said these people will be this and that, and this regional body, it'll end up just like in 2006 to whenever Barjaglio was president. It will all lead up to what happened in Agricola, in Buxton, and all across the country, all the murders and all the things that happen across the country. So the lack of trust, the no confidence that thousands of Guyanese have in the police force and the Ministry of Health, it is warranted because we've been down this road before and we continue to go down it all the time.
And Nicholas, we wrap up the show this afternoon because we're going to hand over to MP Natasha Singh Lewis for her program Building Bridges this afternoon, which has already started. But I want you to have a final word on just the state of affairs in Guyana, looking at everything from a let's just take a bird's eye view. If you are here, you were above and you looking down, and I take specific reference I want to make to what is happening with the Henry Boyce murder and Harris Singh murder, and how the Guyana police force under this PPP government has approached and bungled that investigation to the extent where nobody has confidence in them. So I say that to say, people say, listen, throw away the whole PPP and done. Not only the two ministers. That's some of the comments that we're getting. Your final thoughts as we wrap up the program, Nicole.
It's a dictatorship.
Wow.
The police force cannot act independently. They are fearful for their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone in those positions or placed in those positions, once you're in fear, you will not do thorough investigations because it's in the diktats of the president and the entire PPPC cabal.
Yeah.
So the people are in fear of their jobs, they're in fear of everything, so they cannot act independently. And that is showing where the Police Service Commission chairman has identified in in specific terms what are the rules, the regulations, are the guidelines for the management and the rollout of measures in keeping with the constitution of the Police Service Commission and the police force. The matter was thrown out and still they're not listening. So it's dictatorship.
Yeah.
What else you expect? It's dictatorship. That's what we're faced with. That's what's happening. The head of the Guyana Police Force and the head of the army, I'm very unreservedly, I'd say, they are in fear for their jobs and the time they spent in that service.
Yeah.
So they will always lean towards what the PPPC instruct them to do and not to be independent and manage with, effectively and look out for the interests of the Guyanese people.
And on that note, I want to say thank you, Nicole. It's always lovely to hear your contributions on the afternoon rush. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us.
Most welcome.
Right. Folks, we are going to be ending the program now. That was Ms. Nicole Telford, our usual contributor on the program, giving us her thoughts on political matters and the fallout of whatever is happening here in Guyana. She mentioned something, folks. She said fear. People are in fear of their jobs, their lives, their livelihood, whatever it is. But I say to you this afternoon as I end the program that after a while, fear will not be enough to silence the people and oppress them. And I believe that that day is quickly approaching. It is closer than we believe. That day when you will realize that fear can't keep the people silent or oppress them anymore. My name is Randolph Pritchard. I want to thank you very much for being a part of the program this afternoon. Let's continue to work for national development. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.